Hi everyone, my name's Brenda Aman and I'm from the Centre for Just Places. The Centre for Just Places has been established by Jesuit Social Services and it's a national research advocacy and capacity building centre, and it's for place-based approaches, and we're focused on strengthening communities. The Southern Grampians and Glenelg Primary Care Partnership has engaged the Centre for Just Places to gather information about how local communities in the region have been working to mobilise community action and to solve complex problems. So this information will be presented in the form of a user guide to showcase the great work that's happening, as well as including some tools and advice for local communities to use. In order to gather this information, my colleague Thea Hewitt and I will be conducting interviews, and we will be facilitating focus groups with key individuals and groups who are involved in the local collaboratives. So this introduction that I'm doing right now is for me to explain the pre-work for the focus groups. The pre-work is for participants to familiarise themselves with the progress mapping tool that will be used to give you a chance to think about it and to map your perspective before we come together. The progress mapping tool uses a framework for conceptualising change, which has been developed by Collaboration for Impact, called the Collaborative Change Cycle. And I might just get you to share the screen, Ebony. So this framework includes 5 interlinked phases of work, from early stages of coming together to start to understand a challenge that matters to the community in phase 1, through phases of maturity to eventually achieving transformation in phase 5. The progress is through these phases is not expected to be linear, but it'll follow the rhythm of the community, and it may span more than one phase at once, or even be cyclical, which is illustrated in the loops in that diagram. Next slide, please. So the first step in the pre-work asks you to familiarise yourself with the phases and enablers, which can be found on page 2 of the tool. Looking at the phases, beneath each main heading, there's a definition which may be helpful to refer to as you progress through this activity. And you'll also see that on this page, there's 4 pillars or enablers for change. These are the pillars from the strategic plan that was developed by the partnership. And they also align closely with the enablers in the local theories of change in Generate Change, See Change Portland, and Hands Up Casterton. These descriptors are directly from the strategic plan, and they may also be useful to refer back throughout this activity. So the first task is really just to familiarise yourself with what's in these 2 boxes on page 2. So let's take a look at the matrix. The second step in the pre-work is to familiarise yourself with this matrix. So let's take a look at it. The phases of change in the collaborative change cycle are along the top, and the locally developed pillars of change are down the side. Each box in the matrix includes a brief description of what you might see for the relevant enabler in that particular phase of the change cycle. It's a bit like playing a game of battleships. So the final step in the pre-work is to colour code or map these descriptors according to your observations. You can do this electronically, or if you want to print it out, you could use highlighters to do this, whichever you find easier, but just note that the printout is A3 in size. Let's take a look at the first column and row. This description is what you might observe for the enabler fostering collaborative leadership, and it's in phase 1 of the readiness runway. Using the code at the bottom of the page, if you think that this is already in place and embedded, you would make this orange. And the orange means we've done the work, it's sustainable, the backbone team can step away and know that others are going to keep the change going. Similarly, if it's being worked on now, you would make it green. And if it's what's going to be worked on next in the next 12 months, then you would make it blue. And just leave it with no colour if it's a longer term piece that's more than 12 months away. Then the next thing you'd do is move to the second column in the first row, phase 2 of the change cycle for enabler 1, and you would colour code it. So go through each row in the same way until it's all filled out. Just note that there's no right or wrong answers in this. This is just a tool to facilitate reflection and conversation. So you could stop sharing, Ebony. So please have your color-coded matrix handy to look at during the online focus group, and we'll be using the mapping to reflect on what phase we're in and to look at key achievements and the progress so far and what can be learned going forward. So please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the group session.